So this year's Christmas is going to be different. This year's Christmas is going to be different in the sense that the last 3 Christmases we were in lockdown. So it was difficult and a different time altogether. But this time we are going to mix, we are going to mingle, we are going to celebrate, we are going to enjoy with our loved one. But most importantly, as we do reflect, it is time for us to return thanks to the Lord for having seen us through, because God saw us through 2022, 2021 and 2020. These were very difficult time. We did not have the opportunity to celebrate it the way we are going to celebrate it this time round. So as a result of that, we need to sit down, celebrate, and I just want to wish everyone a very, very Merry Christmas 2022, a prosperous 2023, and you know that your God is on duty. So let's come back 2023 when we are fully charged and ready to serve in every area of your service that you have been created to give service to humanity. Let's do precisely that. Otherwise, I just want to say Merry Christmas again and have a fantastic season, of course, as always.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning once again, and thank you so much for staying with us here in UBC. And definitely we do come to give you what's trending in the world of news, as earlier we did internationally and locally. But also, far from that, we do keep you updated about what's happening as we do head into our festive season. But we do come to you Monday to Friday, 6:30 to 9, and thereafter we have Good Morning Uganda Extra. But stay glued to UBC for any of your updates that will need to take you through this festive season. And today, in another way, we'll also be discussing something to do with violence. Now, continuously, government has been urged to come out to construct shelter for people who have been victims of any forms of violence. Now, the same emanates with a growing concern of violence against particular genders, as also reports come to prove the same. But this has been also consistent. And the biggest worry is that people who have suffered or victims of violence have not been given much attention, majorly as a country, but also later on as societies. And that's going to be our discussion with Bob. We'll be looking at the inception of the same, trying to find out what violence is and the effects of the same, and where does government come in to play their role. But first, we want to define violence. Violence would be any sort of harm with intent. This is quite important to qualify it to be violence. There must be intent to cause harm that may be temporary or permanent. And this can take various forms. It can be psychological, it can be physical, just to mention but a few. But just to get into this story, Robert, where is the missing gap? Maybe let's talk about the causes of majorly known violence in this country in terms of that fall into the definition of what I get.
Well, thank you, Felix, and of course our viewers, but we don't forget to congratulate our brothers from Mobende and Kasanda, where the lockdown was lifted. They're going to have Christmas fairly better because they'll be able to make a number of movements. We hope that then they won't mess up and again we get cases of Ebola, because we are waiting for the 11th of January. That is when the 42 days will have elapsed without us registering any new case of Ebola infection for us to be declared by World Health Organization as Ebola-free country. Now, going up to the good question that my brother asked, the causes of violence. Now, first we must look at, by and large, this being a third world country on the African continent, the female gender has been mostly affected by violence of all forms. One, it has culture, it could have religious, it could also have biological factors that majorly the female sex is a bit weaker compared to the male sex. Now, when we look at the health demographic report, it puts it that in Uganda, a survey that was conducted 22% of girls between the age of 15 to 49 have experienced a form of violence. Now, that's not a small number. My brother here says he's a father to girls and is very passionate when you talk about that. That's a very big number, 22%. And this was a 2016 report. Now, the other or current report puts it even at about 40%. So we cannot just sit and talk about and just say we do lip service. Now, causes of violence, first, I want to begin with what we don't want to discuss or talk about most of the times. They have a connection, one, with culture or our traditions. That Felix will allude to the fact that there are some cultures that ladies are taken as commodities. And they'll even tell you, your husband came here, he paid dowry, he gave us bride price. That is it. So, to them, battering, beating a woman could be something okay. And then it also has child bring up. What some people have grown up seeing. Some of these things, why you may find them in some families and not in other families, that some families, men have grown up from being boys seeing this and they think it's the way to go or do things. Then also have the religious aspect. That much as it talks about wives being subordinate to the husbands and all this, but you find that they talk about so much of, even when there is violence, we keep there. And you've seen some people who have done all it takes to get religious divorces or to have blessings. When they're saying we are parting, they'll tell you, well, it's still death. We cannot support this, we condemn this actually. You have to see how that works. But also the issue of poverty. I want to tell you, during COVID-19, when many people were not working, we saw cases of domestic violence or violence going high, shooting high. Why? Because some people, when they lack and they are not able to provide, they turn violent. And that is why we saw cases spring up like never before in this country. Men were home, they didn't have money, then some women could not understand these situations, some men, and it was so problematic. So these are some of the factors that really are making domestic violence. But also it goes into the laws. Uganda, I want to say we are a paper giant. We have very good laws. But these laws are useless if not implemented, Felix. Because you'll find that investigations are so hard. Something that you'd think is very obvious, this man or this woman battered, even injured, or psychologically torturing this person. But you find that investigating, bringing evidence, then seeing this successful through the judicial process, it becomes a problem. So these keep these cases increasing. And most of the times you find that the weaker sex, which is being here is the female gender, most of the times they are more of the victims compared to the male gender. So when we have culture, when you have religious, when you have issues of poverty, when we have issues of women that are not very empowered. Because if you look at women that are empowered, many of them will not stay in these violent relationships. Many of them have the capacity to say, I can walk away and still be. Now, when you look at the number, the age group 15 to 49, I think you find that these are still very productive in one way or the other. These are people in marriage, in dating times. They're the energetic numbers that we are seeing where day by day cases of violence are increasing against them.
Well, of course, having looked at some of the causes of violence that could take various also shapes, some of them will talk of domestic violence. You could talk about violence against gender, in this particular case, gender-based violence. One could talk about violence that could be taking forms of political, could be also political victims. We have had challenges, you remember some of the cases in the northern part of Uganda, up till today, where there's a lot of work to be done in terms of rehabilitation. So violence takes all those forms. And when you talk about some of the causes, you do take note that we need to have a major player or a primary player in this. And that's the question I want to ask you, Robert. Who is at the forefront? Who should be at the center of aiding victims of violence?
Well, that is a tricky one because, like you've rightly said, it takes a number of forms. But one, I want to begin with government. First, one of the things that we find is how do we ensure that we can end this as a government by having punitive measures. That government has put laws in place and these laws are followed. Some of these things, Felix, why countries have been able to overcome them is because there are laws and the laws are implemented. For example, today in Uganda, having a gun illegally. Because our government prioritized the story of the 27 men and then the few guns. They know what it means to own a gun. The government knows that 1, 2, 3 guns in the community can do wonders, can do magic, because their journey, their exodus to come into leadership, they saw what few guns did and overthrew a government. So anything to do with weaponry in this country is held with utmost force that is needed. That is why you cannot move around and terrorize people. So even when you just tell people that, well, we have maybe armed robbers here, you would see the emphasis, you would see the efforts being put in there. So if we can bring some effort, similar energies, and say, we need to have tough laws, we need to implement them, that any case of violence, and now I want to be more specific in terms of gender violence, because when you look at the plea for government where they are saying let them build more homes for victims of violence, they are looking at women who are being tortured and they have nowhere to go. It is the husband battering, it is the husband beating, but she can't go back to her family because they are telling her, we took the bride price, you're old enough, where do we keep you? She can't go to friends because they are saying, I also have my own challenges, I won't be able to take you. So there are few civil society organizations that have come up with these homes. They're talking of young girls that are being forced into early marriages in this whole long holiday, that are looking for a place to run to that they can call a safe haven. You know, they're not going to be detained in police stations or kept there at police. They're not going to be taken in remand homes because they have not been convicted of anything. So this is what we are saying, that we need to ensure that we have laws that are deterrent, that just like someone would tell you, in case you came, said, I have a gun, Felix, keep for me this gun. You know, that they'll have that fear that any form of violence, the punishment and the chances of you being convicted are so high, so let's not bother. I think that is where government must come in. Improve the investigative machinery, improve or facilitate judiciary, where you find that due to case backlog, some of these cases take years to be heard. And that is why you find that some people will even say, just sort them here, because how long are you going to wait for this case to see the light of day, for a final judgment or verdict to be given? So government has its role. But I also want to go back to families. You know, we are very unfortunate that an institution called family is breaking day by day, Felix. I want to tell you, I've seen people where there are certain things they can never do because of their upbringing and their families. That there are things that Nkunda from the Rubowa family can never do, no matter what happens. He's grown up in church. He's a man of the rosary. He was a catechist. Now, it would be foolhardy or very surprising to hear that now making Felix Yafuka Musawo Buganda or anybody from, I'm not saying those that are doing, but you just can't trace that. That now you're seeing him advertising Jangu Jeko Rubale, Jangu Kusamidide, because his background doesn't have that. That there are families you can't even talk about, that so and so now married, Mucharawe number, Bidi number, Satu. Because not even in the lineage has it ever been there. But there are families where it's normal. There are families where you can never be a drunko and exist in their lineage, tabanga yo. So when we go back to family upbringing, that most of the times a woman will grow up knowing how the mother was treated or behaved. A son who has grown up in a violent family, most of the times they like to say so. Mama So family, we must go back and really say no to violence. We bring up a man knowing that this is your better half. We bring up a man, know that every woman you see is as good as your sister. It's your role to protect them. Every woman you see is as good as your daughter. It's your role to protect and defend them. That every man you see is your brother. It's your role that when you come together, you're coming together to do life together. You're all adults who deserve respect. Then you go to the cultural institutions. I think they have not done enough in issues of violence, mostly against women or against couples, either married or cohabiting. That we need to go back and place the woman in the right place. I have a feeling that most of the times, despite a number of efforts to educate the girl child, a number of efforts sometimes to push for rights, we've not done much on the traditional setting on placing a woman where she should be. That most of the times, and I don't know what is Felix's view, this issue of bride price, dowry, even the term, I just don't like it. Yeah, bride price, the word. Price is something you attach to something of value and you pay and partake. Tunasasula mukazi wo. Omukazi wa mugula, you know. Newaffe tebakumanyi tosasulanga. I think it would be more of appreciating parents. But also we've made it in a way that it is buying. If someone is going to spend over 50 million getting a partner, yes, it is evidence of showing that you're able to look after this person. But I think we've also of late blown it out of proportion to what it was previously. That was more of a sign of appreciating the parents. Then religious leaders also. I think they have also a very big role to play in these times, because I don't want to mention particular faith, but there are some teachings that underrate a woman. The particular teachings that more so, yes, the man is the head of the house, but they even bring in putting right, putting wrong. I think that is also an area that we must look at. And also even in the schools, I don't know how we can include this on a curriculum. You know, that is not all about saying, these ladies are educated, they are empowered. Because of late, you may be testify with me that you're having so many empowered women. I come from the born-again fraternity of faith. But I want to tell you, Felix, one of the things I've identified, the number of churches, if you parade youth there, sometimes you have, I used to attend the singles, you know, conferences. I want to tell you, you'd find that there are very many empowered women of late. In terms of books.
What's your sense of empowerment? Probably that is something
in terms of they have read, if they begin introducing themselves, the brothers, what job do? You see mighty men, I mean mighty women in terms of good jobs, economically wealthy. And the opposite, the brothers may not be that very much, they're not so much in tandem with that. And now what happens is that when these two come together, they have not been given enough to understand. One comes a weakling who wants to find a position and defend his ability and stature. So they come on some footing that is totally messy. And when we have this continuous friction, this is where violence comes from. So those are some of the aspects that I would say we must address clearly if we are to reduce. The statistics are not very good that we have as a nation. You can't have over 30% of girls between the age of 15 to 49 having experienced one or two forms of sexual violence. I think that's very good statistics.
Yeah, well, of course, it does also cause threat and uproar for us people to know that violence now lives amongst us. It's quite evident, and has become one of the most addressed ways of setting issues in this country. As you were making your comments, I did catch a couple of thoughts here, and I was thinking how people have lots of rage when it comes to how they react to issues, and this is quite evident on how they run their social medias, on how the media is run by far. You do notice that many Ugandans lately have issues of anger, dissatisfaction, I don't know, disowned rage, and you find that this manifests in many things they do in how they say things. And at that point is where I want to bring in Earlier, I did ask you about the various stakeholders. You've been able to talk about the role of government, talked a bit about family and society. But I want us now to talk about schools. There have been many cases of violence in schools, and these take different forms. You can look at them in terms of bullying, where we've had some people even commit suicide. Students, many a times, have had these cases. People have dropped out because of, again, bullying, and various forms of abuse that happens in schools by either fellow colleagues, students, or later on also tutors or administrators, and later probably lecturers.
Recently we saw a slap at Makere.
And I was just coming to that, like most recent we did see a lecturer giving a very good slap to a student. What's your comment about institutions like that?
Well, schools play a very great role in shaping society, because in modern day today, you may find that even children spend more time in school compared to what they have with their families. You'll find a child, if they're in boarding school and they entered boarding school, say in primary 1, you'll find that most of their lifetime, they're going to be in boarding schools. 7 years of boarding schools, then have another 4 of boarding school, then they have another 2 of boarding school. So the parent has almost 20% of the child's time. Now, I want to believe that there hasn't been much interest focusing in the area of violence. Yes, at one time the ministry came up and abolished corporal punishment in schools. That is caning in schools. Some adhere to that. Many schools still have caning in schools. And it's one form of violence. One time, my brother Felix here talked about a teacher who used even to come and say, they don't end up bakuba, he's in swag to beat. And now, for such a teacher, it would be very hard for them to preside over a violent student, because themselves are equally violent, you know. So we need to understand how do we preach the gospel of peace in schools, through the plays they have, through the poems they have, through the assemblies they have, message of peace and tolerance. Because I think, Felix, violence happens when there is lack of tolerance. Violence happens when there is lack of one believing that we may have different sides of views of issues, but one thing that can hold us together is the humanness that we have. That if I don't agree with Felix, I shouldn't decide to either psychologically torture him or physically become violent, or even verbal artillery. Some people may not beat you, but they may have words that a person says one word, and for the rest of 2023, it has an impact on your life. So we must be tolerant. That tolerance must be taught. In our political arena today, Felix, because of lack of tolerance, people can't believe that we can agree to disagree, and we remain peaceful, and just say, yes, brother, you didn't agree with me, I have my side, you have your side, but we can move on. So tolerance is something that we must also move. Then schools must learn to work also on character. Felix, today our schools are so much onto passing. You know, how many first grades? Schools are moving away from raising or bringing a fully packaged person.
Is that part of the syllabus? Is that part of their syllabus?
Because a teacher should be able to mentor and to build character.
But which teacher?
That is another question. Do we have such teachers? That is why we know some schools that some people have called traditional schools. That, you know, that a person who went to Budo, a person who went to Gayaza, a person who went to Nabisunsa, a person who went to Namagunga, a person who went to, we can mention some of those schools, Felix, Kisubi, that there's some character that is built, school built, not even home built. The respect they have, the dignity they have, that they approach and handle certain issues. This is a school built. I remember even one time we had a school here where even you'd think they have even, I want to show you how schools have a great role to play. That this school even one time, as Kampala parents, those days under Mr. Kasole, we were told, I had sisters there. But the entire school almost had a similar handwriting with a fountain pen. That if you opened a book of so-and-so, you would think, are these kids just copying? But that was all very good, very neat, but was school done. So school can do so much. That's why I gave you those traditional schools, that they look at the health bit of it, they look at the emotional intelligence of a child, they look at their expression, their tolerance levels. Another example I want to give to show how schools have a, you know, usually I think it is either second term when schools go for tours. A bus of a certain school will bypass you on the streets of Kampala, either you're driving. Then another school will pass, maybe same class, and they are humble. They are being driven. They have come from the museum, they have come from the whatever place, and they are going back to school. Another will pass, and when you peep through what you see, you're scared. So schools have a great role in ensuring that we have a violence-free society, because they have these young lads for the longest time in modern day, and we believe if they make this a priority. But the challenge today is why I don't expect much from them with this commercialization of education, where schools are now targeting marks, percentage. You wait, soon you'll see when the results are over. The best in the district, the best in Uganda. So we've so much gone into marks. When it comes to universities, they're also looking at color. They may assume these are mature people, but also with them you'll find a student from Uganda Christian University, a student from is it IIU, then a person from KIU, a person from Makerere. You will see the difference still, you know. And one will tell you, you see, then you see. So you see that even the difference of what they prioritize is totally different. So it shows how schools can impact so much in this fight.
Well, having looked at the institution of academics in terms of schools and universities, there's something also important for us to also try and put to table is when you talk about the kind of generation, and I've been many times I've had this discussion in terms of is this a generation discussion? Many are things that are happening lately, are not things we have seen consistently from the past. When you talk about is it a generational challenge, this is what I'm trying to say. Do we have a generation that is intolerant? Very much for that matter, but also do we have a generation that has a very, very, very less sense of in terms of appreciation of events? We have a generation that is challenged with issues of understanding, and that's a matter of fact. But by far, drugs, again, I'm still talking about some of the characteristics of this generation. Are we looking at emotional intelligence? Challenges like child fathers, child mothers, single mothers. Is this a generational problem that is characterized by some of those few things? Are we blaming them, yet we have not given them enough? Us, the parents, us, they are probably elders, grandmothers. Have we given this generation enough tools to fight this thing they call violence? Or we are simply also gearing them up? As some of the examples I've given you, we look at drugs, you look at the emotional intelligence, you look at the responsibilities they carry. Today at 15 years, someone is carrying a full family on their back. You see kids on the streets everywhere in this country. At the age of 8, as early as 4, someone is already on the streets. You know, what do they see? What they're exposed to? So is this a generational challenge that is marred by some of those characters that I've given you?
Well, you can only give what you have. And I must say, this generation, there's so much that has not been given to it. And there's so much that shouldn't have been given to it and they have been able to get. One, globalization. When you talk about violence today, Felix, I want to tell you, children are exposed to violence as early as when they are able to play video games. If parents that have PlayStations, that you've bought PlayStations for your children, now I'm beginning with the elite, these middle class families. Most of these PlayStations, the games, the packages, are they of violence?
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah. A
You see
kid
things
is
like
learning to shoot.
wrestling, shooting games, fighting, Mortal
Fighting.
Kombat, and what.
Basically, you've said it right. That the moment this child is aware, the first thing for them is violence. Look at when you go to toy stores, what most is there? When you go to a supermarket and you go to a column of toys, swords, guns, isn't it? And they'll tell you that what we sell most here is almost every young father or every parent that comes in here with a boy child, tusoka muwa mundu, biso, pisito, bichi. That is it. For the girls, maybe a doll, but that they are open to violence. When they begin watching on the screen, most of the training movies of all ages you find are action-packed. So this generation, we've exposed it to so much violence from the initial stage that they grow up with a violent mind. One time, there was a court case I was following. I was reading about when I was in journalism school. And this is a young man called Nyonyintono who one time asked the judge, you are a student of law, you must have heard of this very well, that can I demonstrate how I killed this person? But he said that when police went to his place where he was sleeping, away from a bed much as he had an apartment, there were movies of violence demonstrating how you can kill that dominated the entire apartment. That what he was watching mostly were movies. When they further investigated, he would even order and partake. So, and they were easily available. He wasn't getting them from the United States, but going to keep video libraries to get that. So the level of violence we're exposing these children is very, very high. Now that is the middle class. Even when you go to the rural settings, Ebibanda, you know, movies. When you go to social media today, it is violence after violence. So there's so much that this generation has woken up to previous generations didn't. More so with modernity and the global, the world being a global village. But also, we look at the times in terms of time for parenthood. Felix usually says here that parenting never ceases. Today, parents, we have very little time for our children compared to the times when we were kids. Because now we no longer depend on agriculture so much that maybe Muzei would go to coffee, then he's been home during the day, then in the evening he moves out to go and take 1 or 2 bottles, then he returns. He's home based. Mom is home, she's home based. She monitors, she instills discipline. Remember such things, Felix? You know, kakubanka, jamo gono. You get it? That when she looks at this son or daughter, he's, you know, violent, and she ever beating, ever fighting, you know. The mother identifies that, and she works against it. You know? Well, no, doesn't share, works against it because they were home. They had the time. Today you have a housemaid. Many people want a girl between 15 to 18 years. They are better maids, you know. So then what else? We have tabs, we have TV. These are the ones mentoring. These are the ones instilling values in our children. Go to religion. To a certain level today, few homes are religious. I mean, prayer. We grew up when prayer was compulsory, isn't it? Some homes you didn't even eat food. If you don't want to go to church, then you don't also eat food. So, and religion has a great way in modeling society, in shaping people. That is why our colonial masters use religion very well, because there is a way it makes you obedient. Love one another. Thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt, thou shalt. So many families today are no longer religious. They no longer value religion in their families. It's no longer a pillar of child bring up. You can't, what people have prayed, what? So these are
Could this be the fault of, because when you talk about violence and victims of violence, definitely you have to bring in religious institutions. But as I told you earlier, looking at this as a generational challenge and problem, you may want to also ascertain how assisting or how helpful have the churches made themselves to these problems. Are they available to be solutions? That has been the big question. Or the reverse is the truth. Because when you talk about violence, it's quite evident in most of the churches. I have had various church leaders here take on themselves abusively in that form of violence against themselves. You get the point? And this cuts across. You have seen from the wide spectrum of Muslims, you come to Pentecostals, just to mention but a few. So when you bring in the aspect of church, the big question is, how has church positioned itself to be a solution to the question of violence? That's the big question.
I would rightly say, without fear of contradiction, that the church is misplaced as we speak today. Religious institutions are long misplaced. They have lost their position. They have lost their moral authority in terms of being a place to run to.
How?
One, they have so much been influenced by the get-rich syndrome. Of course, we know money is key. And I want to give you the latest example. The head of the Anglican Church, my friend Dr. Stephen Kazimba Mugalu, recently was not happy with affairs in Canterbury where they appointed a dean who is in a gay marriage. He said, we may be tempted to part ways completely. But at the end of it, he mentioned, but we need to be financially stable. Meaning that if it wasn't, maybe because of the funds we need from these people, then what would hinder us from breaking away from them? Today, many churches, many places of worship are preaching the gospel of prosperity. Not of love, not of repentance, not of tolerance. The scriptures that are most gotten or preached about in the Bible today are about money. I'm not saying religion must make you poor.
Maybe also, it's quite hilarious that even the mode of prayer lately has changed. And it is sad. I remember growing up as a young man in Rubaga and of course at the cathedral in the parish of Narukorongo, Sigura. We used to do rosaries, we used to do prayers, we used to be at the cathedral for prayers. But one of the things I learned as a Christian is that in the presence of God, you must sanctify and be the humblest of yourself. And I remember we were being told to put your hands together whenever you enter in church, even how you walk. I remember they used to teach us how to walk. See, in Uganda, see just kusatuka. When you enter, once you enter church, everything changes. From the way you laugh, how you smile, even looking at people. Like all those were forms of distractions. And the purpose of this was for us, of course, to teach us that that is a way of honor and respect to God. When you reach, there are particular places in church where you have to kneel down, others you have to bow your head, others, all those things. Tell you what I see today in churches. And this is one of the things I think, from probably some of the things that why we have challenges with violence. Someone goes to church, from the time they start praying, they're shouting. I don't know where those things came from. From his opening, kuleka, like you see the veins, the man is sweating from head to toe. It's like you're fighting with the Holy Spirit.
The preacher has to come with a towel.
Give you, why do you, man carries a full towel. Someone is literally, what is squeezing sweat out of a towel. a service of 30 minutes, you're sweating like you're in, and it keeps on shouting, Chitwale, Chirete,
It's a battle with the devil.
Chirete,
You've come to fight with Satan.
Now, God even, and these are some of the things that directly work into violence. Because you see this at home, you see this in church, you see, how do you ask God by saying, Chimpe, Chitute, Chitwale, Chitute? How do you, anyway, for us, as I've told you, my background as a Christian young man, I was taught that once you enter, and I remember even it's biblical. I remember what God told Moses when he was approaching. Remember what he said? Like you are stepping on holy grounds, and that will require you probably to even put off, like, put your body in purity of the presence of God. Humbleness. Like, you don't walk in church, and you talked earlier of these institutions. Some of these things that they were instilled in us work directly into the many mannerisms of people. For example, when you go to, and I've seen my brothers, the Muslims. Have you been to a mosque? I've been there a couple of times, many times for prayers. Man, you never find a Muslim jumping, Allah, Allah, Allah. They'll throw you out. It's time for prayer. You've come to a place that is holy. All these things, but you find someone stepping on the table, slapping people. You saw in church, a pastor gets a belt and is beating people. I don't know, because you want to slap people's buttocks, you want to pinch their breasts, you want to and this is where I ask, where is the church?
The church.
Who condemns such things? Are these things sanctioned by the Spirit? Really? Caning, Kirabo, people slapping. The other person was spitting in people's mouths. You saw that. Quite nasty. Is that the church that is going to deal with violence? When someone prides in getting a belt and walloping the congregation. Now, I saw a video most recent. I hope I don't be gotten out of contradiction. And someone says Tai Chi, monkey style.
I think that is
the drama is too much at the pulpit. There's too much drama.
The church's position, it has to reposition itself. You know, in modern day, when we are talking about issues of violence, one, we must ensure that what gospel are we preaching today? And the gospel that can talk about fight against violence is not selling today.
But who is preaching the gospel? And this is the question, and I'm sorry.
And you can only give what you have.
Yeah, I'm only sorry that we're taking a little bit of time looking at the church in terms of dealing with violence as an answer. But this is the misconception of our generation, that church has been turned into a career or a job. Ministry has been lured into the levels of being a job. That's why I speak for the church I know. That informs the purpose as to why the Catholics earlier on, and I think also the Protestants, had to make a vow to poverty. When you see the sisters and the brothers and the part of their vows, they used to make a vow to poverty.
Wow.
Yes, because they knew what comes with riches. And that's the challenge we are having in churches. Churches have been commercialized. I saw one of the pastors whatever he calls himself, in town, luring his congregation into buying him a car. And even knows the denomination, saying, Muze Uganda Zimbabweziti, Muze Kenya Zimbabweziti.
And he has a fleet of very expensive cars.
And but you're standing on the pulpit preaching the gospel. How does that man talk about violence? Are we having the right message on the pulpits? But rather, are we having the right people on the pulpits? This is a very bitter discussion to discuss because it gets people very emotional, but it's the reality. It's the reality. We are having the wrong messages by wrong messengers. You see a person with a congregation of over 5,000 people to 10,000 on every weekend. But you know what he tells them? After I hear that message, how do I go home and love my wife immensely, like Jesus loved his church? And that's what the Bible says. Husbands, love your wives like Jesus
Christ
loved
loved
what?
the church.
Yeah. Kati, when I come to church and the message I have is you can marry any person you want, bino byuma buma. How do I respect a woman? And you see, violence is psychological. That's all how it starts. It creeps in with things like disrespect. Once you don't respect someone, for example, Kirabo, if you respect your spouse, can you attack them?
Definitely no.
If you love them, can you harm them? Now, that's why, and that's why I brought in the role of family. You brought in the role of family. I'm trying to collaborate this with church. That the places where we should get the right information about violence, the reduction of violence, we are not getting that information. Churches are focusing on all these other things.
Who has a better cathedral?
And you know, it's painful. Sometimes I am watching TV and I listen to the things that some of our ministers are praying for the people. They are so... I'm sorry, there are some of those bogus things.
Tusabira omwaka guno ogutandika olinnye ku nnyonyi.
Jesus.
Olinnye ku nnyonyi.
How important. Visa yo. Omwami yakubula. Ennyumba ekulemye. No one talks about peace. No one. Siwirangayo omuntu agamba ne mbasabira mbe n'emirembe. No wonder. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'll lean towards again the Catholic Church. That they make it a point. There's that point even part of the service that they talk
even
about
as your
peace.
As your
you're going,
ways,
yes. Like the issue of peace is not evident. Co-living together, coexistence of human beings. I think, and for me...
And today also politics has washed the church. When you look at events that are happening, now Felix, I can predict summons. If such an event has occurred, I can predict a sermon that is going to be preached at Rubaga, that is going to be preached at Namirembe, that is going to be preached by... You predict and know that this is... The only difference is the level of maturity in a communication. That the born-again, some may be extremists in preaching and forget that they're supposed to be neutral. Rubaga will hint on it, but I think in a more civilized and gentle way. Namirembe, same thing. Though when you move from the cathedrals, some of those others, there are some I know in Masaka who are extremists when it comes to that. So that as there is a way, it has also taken away the politics and the things that are happening, the church from having that gospel that positions it into promoting peace, unity, and tolerance.
So, Robert, lastly, in just a minute, what will be your wrap-up or your parting shots about how do we answer this big question of violence? The government has been asked to consider finding shelter for some of them. But does that answer the problem? In your opinion, just in a minute as we wind up.
Well, for me, I want to tell everyone that it begins with you to end violence. It is you as an individual to say, I'll not be violent. I'll be tolerant. This young man is my son, is my brother. This young daughter is my daughter, is my sister, is a human being like I am. And to accept that we will not see all things the same way, but we must coexist as human beings. Respect for one another. And to government, we just need, why countries excel in certain areas is they have laws and they prioritize. I don't believe we've given enough priority. We have the anti-corruption code, we have this. Where have we put up formidable institutions that handle? Women are being violated, their rights are violated, and they have nowhere to go. Now we are saying, let's construct more homes. But if we do not tame those that commit this violence, I don't see where you can have enough resources to cater for that 22% of women aged between 15 to 49 years in these homes. We don't have that money. But we can put stringent measures that deter anyone from committing such offenses.
Well, of course, the big question is that why would we even be bothered about constructing shelters for really violence victims, really? Do we have to even have that as a thought for us? This is something we can stop as families, as colleagues, as a society. This is our duty. That's the least we can do for humanity. As I've always said time and again, kindness is the only thing we should trade, because you're all children of the world. But of course, for some of us who greatly anchor ourselves into Christianity and believe in God, it's a demand, it's a calling. But the greatest commandment of God is love one another. Above all, he talks about faith, hope, but above all these ones, love is the greatest.
Because how can you love God you've never seen?
It all starts with you. I think for us we need to have some love in our country, in our hearts, in our communities, in our families. Trust me, love can go far than all these things. You can't do some things when you have your heart filled with love. For parents, love your children. For families, societies, let's exchange this. It's a tool of trade. Give love and you'll find life. I think this is for me the biggest way to deal with issues of violence. And of course, as we do approach into times of the festive season, Christmas, the child of God is going to be born. We can't be more happy than this. We're excited that we're going to be celebrating Christmas. There's no better gift to give out there than to love one another. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly taking you through what's trending in the papers. And of course, later on, we'll be looking at what topical discussion Bobo will be discussing in the GMU agenda. Let's take a break.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Paying for groceries the old way.
3, 4, 5.
I don't even know what he's doing.
7, 8, 9.
Allow me.
Paying for groceries with the My Airtel app. You have the power in your pocket. The power to conveniently pay for goods and services. Unlock that power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now.
That's my wife. Yeah, let me just take this coins.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Well, into a press review, we'll be looking at the Daily Monitor and the big headline, Museveni defends son on political comments. Now, what it says, President Museveni comes out to say senior military, including his son, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, will not be punished for publicly making political statements, but will instead be guided a departure from the past where officers were court-martialed for such commentary. But the big picture we see, Argentina, another team that won there, and definitely this is a big moment for Lionel Messi. Trust me, I saw yesterday's game, and I don't want to say it is deserving of him, but I know he hungrily wanted this to life. And the big question is, what next after this? Is it a good retirement? But for me, I was very sure when they went to penalties, France was going to lose.
Make him the greatest
Of what?
of all times.
There's no way. There's no way. You've not watched soccer for you to say Messi is the greatest. There have been people.
He's won. They're looking at what he has achieved in his career.
But he has not won. The people who have won almost all tournaments, who have won the Premier League, they won the Serie A, Italian, they went to Spain and the World Cup. The likes of Ronaldo da Lima, Ronaldo da Lima, not this Ronaldo Cristiano, but da Lima, the phenomenal. You know, so there are many. But even Maradona himself. But in his times, he has done his part. That's the honest truth. Now, Karuma Dam nears light at the end of dark tunnel, and they give you an insight in what is at dam and what expectation we will have from the dam. But still in the Daily Monitor, they give you a total breakdown on what Museveni said on defending son in the interview. Now, I'm not a president of Uganda because of America, Museveni says to a journalist, Remy Bahati, interviewing him in the sidelines of the US African Summit. So that was quite a dismissive when he said, I'm not a president of Uganda because of America. Okay, that's
Do they vote? They don't elect him
Yes,
into power.
Robert, about the new.
Well, that is an interesting one, I must say, and he never disappoints me. But I like his English, my friend, when he was speaking. His Excellency, I was like, wow, is this where Ambide gets notes? But it really, I like that terminology and the language.
Is true.
Well, let's move at what is in the new vision this morning. Yellow fever cards introduced now. Those that have been forging, that is yellow fever vaccination cards. Government has moved in now. They're electronic. They're more like the COVID-19.
I don't know what is this yellow fever thing and the world and traveling. In Uganda, honestly, I've grown up and I've never heard of a yellow fever patient. I'm being honest. But I wonder why this is the most important document. I don't know.
Well, other countries probably could be having these outbreaks.
Here to explain to us
Definitely.
From aviation.
But
why yellow fever?
You know the problem it has caused? I was watching a story where even government initiative to ensure that they streamline and avoid forgery, there's a lot of corruption involved. There's where there was people in this business, there were about 80 health facilities you'd go to. Now they have reduced them to 20 only that are accredited to do that, and they have to pay some amount that is really a lot of money to a certain body. Now only to look at a certain number, if the online system is not on that, you send money to, and it's registered in the names of a former minister. Maybe they just resemble. Natural change, and it's chaotic. But we hope they come to the end of it. They are saying, now this money is going to individuals. We thought we are giving this money to government. But that's something we'll discuss maybe as the week goes on. But moving on still, the World Cup. Yes, Felix has done us justice, and Ruben will be here to give us more of that. Now, civil servants claim getting half pay. Government directs on December salaries. Well, there were circulars moving in, employees in Wachiso saw that, where they are told to use the money they have very carefully because they may not receive December salary as expected. Remember, you're going in Christmas. Those in the education sector and health, that was a circular that was written by that town clerk there. Still moving on, government lifts lockdown in Mubende and Kasanda, but also they give you more regarding what happened yesterday. And there's mathematics work for senior 3, and of course there's physics, and senior 2 they have chemistry there. Now still moving on, boosting tourism sector will create jobs. We see the Prime Minister here, and of course she was talking more regarding that. Then what public servants say and what government is saying regarding salaries of December.
Crossing into sports, Robert, Date with Destiny, where we saw Argentina coming at top, greatest of all times. GOAT, it is taken 5 tournaments to arguably be the best player ever. Of course, basically, sports will be marred by the winning of Argentina at World Cup. Now, Vieku are so optimistic as league heads into break, and Nsenga tops Take Trout Eyes 2023 tour, and Heathens outwit Pirates to claim Uganda Cup title. All eyes on athletics as Eastern Africa Varsity games start there in Ndeje, and in the same way, Odoto Luganda wins inaugural Busoga Masaza Cycling Championship.
And very interestingly, they give you more regarding the World Cup. Here, where we see the man who took the Golden Glove, then we see Lionel Messi there with the trophy also, and many others, and of course Mbappe there holding the Golden Boot. So the New Vision has more highlights regarding the World Cup and so much regarding a number of sports there. You'll be able to spice up your festive season for the sports lovers. But don't forget, Ruben is also here and he'll be giving you more that you need to know regarding soccer and other sports.
Well, of course, also a sneak dive into the Daily Nation where I'll be looking at love, fast cars and death. And of course, in the big title there, we see that is the dirty secrets of Uhuru's project. And who is going to unveil that? Get yourself copies of the Daily. And of course, also they give you a big picture of Argentina. And Gachagua back Kindiki IG on EU for guns by police there, and very many stories in the Daily Nation. But of course, be able to get yourselves copies of these papers to get the insights of what is in the papers. For us from here, we're going to take a break and we'll be coming back definitely with the Good Morning Uganda agenda. But for some of you planning on coming into town, it is a rainy day. You know what that comes with, a lot of flooding. Potholes will be covered in Kampala, so be careful when you're driving. Don't be mistaken. Where you see a glitch of water, be careful. Uncovered septic holes in this city are there. Also, what the gentleman called a temporary stagnation.
If you're moving on foot, now Felix has talked about those in cars, but the pedestrians, these manholes are very dangerous for you. Where you're not sure of what it is, please do not pass through. Second, if it's still raining, do not move. You rather wait. You're rather late than losing a life.
That is what Robert is saying in terms of moving. If the weather is not good, don't rush. Mostly people who use bicycles, borders and foot. It's very unsafe in Kampala because of fairly not good water channels. We have had cases where water always takes someone in very high raining days. So be careful. For some of you who have kids and children, make sure you get sweaters for them if you're going to travel with them. Yourselves get cardigans, have an umbrella, and then hit town. Maybe you can do some little shopping for the
and
Christmas.
protect them if you're leaving them home. Felix, children have a way they love playing in the rain. And some of them play in bad places. This dirty water, they are running into it. Some are taken in that way. Others, they contract a lot of diseases.
Anyway, from us to you, that is the press brief, what's in the papers. Get yourselves copies of the dailies and be able to get more stories. But we're going to take a break and Bob will be coming back with Good Morning Uganda agenda. And after him, we'll be having Ruben top it up with the sports updates. Good morning, and we'll take a break.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Gatawa with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Oh, Susan, I want to propose to Rose. Yes, and this time I am serious.
Have you guys had sex?
Duh, of course.
And have you had sex without using condoms?
Hey, nga you're curious.
I'm more concerned. Are you having sex with other people?
Hey, hello, is this an interview or what?
No, just things you should think about. Do you know Rose's HIV status?
Okay, this is serious. Should I be worried?
It is actually serious. Do you know your HIV status?
I think I am safe. Many times we get into situations that put us at risk of HIV. However, the first step to ending HIV is getting tested and knowing your results.
It's Time Up HIV. Call 0800-211-046 or text 8080 toll-free for more information about how to prevent HIV.
This message is brought to you by Ministry of Health with support from USAID.
We bring you a fresh, well-researched program to help you identify opportunities for investment, job creation, growing your entrepreneurial skills, wealth creation, and social transformation.
We have a product that is ready for schools, supermarkets.
Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Every week we showcase opportunities for creating new products and services.
I now harvest a lot of cocoa. When I harvest it, I sell. After selling, I put money in my project. I have 2 projects. 1 is for construction of my house, 2 is for educating my children.
Excellence in innovation, the passion and drive to succeed, and the right mindset to grow your business. Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Brought to you by Operation Wealth Creation.
Dr. Peter Kagwa, the Director of Finance and Administration for the Uganda National Broadcaster, UBC. UBC is Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. This is your TV, 100% Uganda. It is owned by Uganda 100% and it is for you, the citizens. We are here to bring you good things that government actually does for you and give you also the international perspective. The reason why I'm here is to wish you a nice Christmas, and to say that we wish you as UBC good celebrations for Christmas, when our God on earth and the Son of God came and was born on the 25th of December. We don't remember the year very well, but all of you read the Bibles and know better. We are celebrating his birth, and you know he brought us good news of fresh liking and knowing God better. We appreciate everyone that has been with us as UBC for all this year since COVID-19 broke up, and now we have the border, and we realize that all these messages have been championed by the Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. You have supported us. We are very grateful that you, the citizens of Uganda, can embrace your TV. This is your TV, and as a result, you can see that we also decided to actually bring you the World Cup. Hope all of you have enjoyed and have learned a lot of things from this. We have given a lot, and you know by Sunday it will be ending. But the feedback from you has actually encouraged us and given us a lot of hope as we continue to build our national broadcaster. Let's build our national broadcaster. We have been in a position to achieve a lot of things this year as we prepare to celebrate for our Christmas when Jesus was born. We have been in a position to decentralize our stations. We have taken our stations to Mbarara, Kasese, Bondibojo, West Nile, Guru, and we are preparing to take our services near to the people in the eastern through Butevo. We are in an information age. that everyone now receives information as and when it unfolds. That is where UBC is going. We have enlarged our social media platforms, our online streaming, and we want to deliver government programs and information that is necessary for the national development to your PC or platforms like the phones and what have you. We have also started even engaging in barazas and the community radios to bring information just nearer to you. So expect a lot from our docket, because we are strategizing for you to make sure that we become part and parcel and one of the champions in the national development for Uganda. Thank you very much. I wish to end by again wishing you a prosperous Christmas and a successful New Year 2023. Thank you very much. I've been Dr. Peter Kagwa, the Director, Administration and Finance on behalf of the Uganda Broadcasting Corporation.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, and thank you so much for being with us. I know it's a very cold weather. It is cold out there, but thank you for being on your TV set this lovely cold Monday morning. You see, for us, traditionally when it rains, we say the Lord is with us. Rainfall is a sign of blessings, but of late it depends where you stay. Here, there are some areas where it rains like, oh my God, problems. There are some areas, I'm told, in this country, mostly in some parts of Kampala, that even on certain items you have to put your phone number, that in case the saucepan goes, the Benson goes, we forgot it outside, the person who comes across it will pick it, look at it, and then call you. Mukure bafu yeri wane wa mama na chwejwe. Mukure bafu yeri wane wa tata hiba. So certain things like that. But all in all, we thank the Lord that we are the Pearl of Africa. We have 2 rainy seasons, and we thank Him that He's brought us safe this far, and of course you're alive as we come to almost the end of this year. We are in the final month. I'm Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono, in case you've just joined us, and this is Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Now, this is a very interesting segment. Why am I saying so? Because you can be part of the show by simply going on our social media platforms and sending us a message regarding the topic at hand. Now, if you send your message in time, I guarantee you, I'll read it and my guests will be able to respond to it. If you don't hear your message, it either came in late or it is similar with the previous I would have read. So just hit, you can have your data on and you use our WhatsApp number 070-960-2592, or you even send on the very number our an SMS, just an SMS message. Even if you're out of data, but you have airtime, you can send an SMS message on that number that will be popping up on your screen. Now, this morning I'm going to be discussing something very interesting, which is safety of road users amidst the festive season. We are at this time when many of us are planning to go to the villages, but also many of us bought cars, and December is when you want to go with our families. You're used to town service. Now you want to go to Masakachi Otera. You want to go to Rushere. You want to go to Padel. You want to show them that the young man has been working. Yeah, and one of the achievements is the vehicle, so he has come with a family. Unfortunately, because of lack of experience, some are even going to hire self-ride. But my brother, you have no permit, you have no experience on the road, but it is festive season. Others, we are drinking to the latter. Someone told me, Christmas, so people have been saving and they have so much on them to spend. Others, under the influence of alcohol, you're on the on behind the wheels and you're driving on the motorcycle. So joining me on set to discuss this is the Traffic Commandant, Kampala Metropolitan, a very big region, by the way. If he was to tell you when you hear Kampala Metropolitan, how far it stretches, but he will do that. Sarongo, Kauma, Rogers, and Sereko. You're most welcome to our studios.
Thank you, Kirabo, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
And good morning, viewers.
Let's begin by understanding, when we talk about Kampala Metropolitan, the traffic region, because someone is saying you have now North Commander. How big is this particular area?
All right. Kampala Metropolitan stretches up to Nsanji on Masaka Road. Then it stretches up to Matuga on Bomba Road. Then it stretches up to Kachiri on Hoima Road. And then it stretches up to Namagunga on Jinja Road. And then it stretches up to the waters on Entebbe Road. Yes.
Quite a very big.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And then on Gaza Road, it stretches up to Nagalama. That is Kampala Metropolitan for you. Yes.
So there we know anything that happens in the area of traffic. Kauma and Sereko Rogers, your responsible, your area of jurisdiction.
Yes.
Now, this is a tough time for traffic officers. And I'm told the police, you never get leave at such a time.
No, we don't.
They tell you wait until January.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, let's begin by this particular time that you've entered. What measures have you put in place to safeguard the innocent and the guilty?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. This is a season that is so full of activity. There's a lot of people who are coming into the city. There's a lot of people who are leaving the city. And it is a beehive of activities. People are coming in to shop. People are coming in to visit relatives. And there's a lot of crisscrossing in the city. So, and as such, we are experiencing a lot of traffic on our roads, both human and non-human traffic. If you went downtown Kampala, you can't believe what is there. And amidst all this, we also have our borders, we have the PSVs, taxis, buses. It is a lot going on. So as traffic, of course, we come in during this season because actually this is the season when we register so many accidents, unfortunately. A festive season like this, and then people die so many. It is an absurd situation. But what we do is that we try to sensitize the public through programs such as this. And on different channels, we are on radio, we are on TV, we are on social media. Nampima is doing a great job there. And those who are willing to listen are listening. And those who are not willing to listen are going by their own activities and disregarding all these safety measures that are needed to be put in place so that you ensure that you are safe. So on top of sensitization, we are also carrying out our operations. We have DMC, because you need to drive a vehicle in a safe condition, and most of people who are going to celebrate Christmas, of course, they are going to use their vessels, and they need to ensure that their vessel is in a good mechanical condition. So we try to enforce the inspection of your vehicle to ensure that it's in a good mechanical condition, and then if it is not, we beckon you to take it for repairs after it has been inspected by the IOV. But also, you are given a penalty for operating a vehicle in a dangerous mechanical condition. How? By giving you a ticket for using a vehicle in that manner. So, and then we are ensuring that people have permits. Those who are operating PSVs have to have the right stickers to ensure that they're operating as such, because in such a season you see people who are also now wanting to get a quick buck by putting private vehicles, and then they start ferrying people.
Actually, one will tell you, if I'm going to the village, if I pick a few people along the way, it helps me on my fuel.
There's volunteering as such, but then there's operating like it is a business, which is wrong.
Someone tell me, when I'm going to the village, at least I know bana amafuta, not voluntarily, but with the aim of getting money from them. And
it happens, but also how you do it matters. You get it. Because there are people who have decided to do it as a business.
Okay.
They actually put their vehicles on road, and then they start calling people. But then there is, when you make a local arrangement and you say, you know what, we are going to Kaberamaido, and we have this car here. You can give us 20 each, and then we contribute on the fuel. But you don't have to bring your car on a stage, and then you park it there, and then compete with the other people who paid the right licenses to operate as taxis. So that's not allowed. So we ensure that those who are operating legally. You get it? So you have your permits at hand, have your vehicle in a good mechanical condition, avoid driving the vehicle when you're under the influence of alcohol or any other drugs. Because it's not just alcohol that is a problem. People have some medications that can make them, you know, unstable. You know, when you have taken some medication, if you know that you are under such medications, you are not advised to drive.
Someone tells you I feel a bit dizziness, drowsy.
Yeah.
But we shall reach.
Yeah. And then they insist on driving, and then along the way they're drowsy, and then you find the vehicle veering off the road. So all those are important things to note. And then also to drive in safe speeds, really, because I don't know why people tend to rush during this season, especially people operating PSVs, public service vehicles, taxis and buses. You don't need to rush, because speed is a major contributor to accidents. You get it? And you are carrying a lot of people on your vehicle. So you are risking their lives. You're risking their lives, and yours too. So it is imperative that you drive in safe speeds, to ensure that you all reach safely. But you know, people want to make so many routes, so they tend to drive very fast to Mbare and back to Mbarara and back, Masaka and back, so that they make so many routes.
And also at this time, fares are so high.
They are so high, but then they forget that there's what they call fatigue. Because if you drive to and fro, you're a human being, you're not a robot. You will get tired, then you also get drowsy while you are driving. Those are the cases you see where buses get off the road and then they end up rolling on the sides of the road because the driver is tired and he's fatigued and he will doze off. So it is important that the driver is also in a good stature. You don't need to drive when you're tired. But we also have reports that their bosses force them to do this. So we are also in engagement with their bosses to see that they don't force their drivers to make so many routes because they want to make a lot of money in this season.
Now,
money will never be enough, you know.
That was said. We also have individuals actually who don't program their journeys.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The person tells you, I'll leave around midnight. Christmas will find me in the village.
Some people live on Christmas Day itself.
And they want to catch mass. They want to have lunch with their families. And they have not planned their journey.
Absolutely.
They find it, no, here 2 hours, I'll be there, 1.5 hours. This Subaru, Atomani Subaru. This Mercedes, it is very stable. We shall make it, we shall live. So I think also must emphasize on planning your journey in time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If we all did that, we wouldn't be getting all these cases of road crashes. We wouldn't. Because why don't you program yourself early? You say, I'm going to move in good time. And move in safe speeds. That is what matters. But you want a rush program, and at the end of the day, you might not reach to your destination. So it is actually important. It's good we raised it. We program our journeys in good time so that we travel in good time.
Now let's look at the operations. I know at such a time, traffic has a number of operations. This time, what are some of these operations? What are you going to be looking out for? I heard Nampima talk about Fika Salama, Institute here in Kampala, checkpoints are now back, not only for security purposes, but it's also for traffic purposes that comes into your docket. And most of the times, my problem has been people on these operations, where sometimes I get to ask myself, but what exactly are they looking for? And people will tell you, rather dodge them, because even if you seem to have everything, there's even a saying, no. Meaning that however perfect whatever you have, still they'll find a reason. And this is where sometimes corruption comes in.
Absolutely.
Because if a person knows that the moment I meet a roadblock, no matter what, there will be something to take me on. So I rather get there, like officer, and let me go. So for these operations, what could be the target areas for safety of road users?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I need to first thank the powers that be that they put back the checkpoints. Because without checkpoints, I'm telling you, in Uganda here, you can register so many fatalities. Because it is a checkpoint. It checks you. You get it? It checks you. Other than checking what we're looking for as traffic, it also checks you, the driver. How? Because with it there, there's a lot of discipline on the road. And remember the last program I was with you here, I told you that I'm so worried that the checkpoints have been removed. I don't know what's going to happen in this season. You get it? And when I heard that they were put back, I was the happiest. Because what happens on our roads, these Ugandan drivers are mad crazy. I'm sorry to say. They are mad crazy. Without checkpoints, they will just roll the cars every other day. But because we have different checkpoints, we communicate. You can find a driver who will not stop at a certain checkpoint, and then we shall communicate ahead that there's this driver facing that side, and he has done A, B, C, D. We stopped him, and he refused to stop. And then they will mount a cut-off point at the next checkpoint, and then we shall nab that driver. So which can't happen without checkpoints. And this is a season when we get so many cases of drunken driving, of speeding, and of people, PSVs making so many routes, which is not allowed during this season, actually. And with these checkpoints, we ensure that we enforce some of these things. Speed control, the violation of the route charts of PSVs, yes. So they help us a lot. Now, on the issue of corruption, yes, it is there, unfortunately. But you and I know that corruption takes two to tango.
True.
Yeah, it takes two to tango. Why are you offering money to an officer on a checkpoint? And I've told you before, Mr. Kirabo, that where it is you, the driver, who is initiating the process of corruption, and not the officer, then you are the one to blame. If you offer money to the officer, money is a necessity to everyone. Even the richest person still needs money.
And they still work.
They still work for the money. So don't expect an officer on a checkpoint not to want money. Where I have a problem is when the officer is the one who's demanding for the money, that give me money and I do this. You get it? That's where I have issues. But if you, the driver, you pull out your wallet, give the officer money, he has not asked for it, why are you giving it to him in the first place?
Officer ka Christmas kaka nonde kangende. With the man just stops.
You lie low like an envelope. You issue your
seen
bribe.
It also with the drivers of taxis, the days when I was still so often there. You see, this guy stops the taxi, then says park. This guy stops, without even knowing any offense, says conductor Ampaya or Mutwaro. He moves out, then just hands the money to the officer.
For what?
Then continues.
For what? Let me ask for what?
Now, which offense or what?
You have not known the offense. You're already pulling out money. You are giving the officer money. But don't complain if you have given your bribe. You keep quiet.
But there's a belief that a traffic officer will at all times find anything to hold you accountable for.
I mean, we are in these offices for a reason. Yeah. If you get this unfair treatment on the road, our offices are open, Ugandans. If a traffic officer demands for money on the road, we are there to address such issues. Don't just give money and then you guys say, oh, corruption. What have you done to try to fight the vice of corruption? Don't just keep quiet and then be there and lament. This is not about lamentations.
So help us understand, officer, if I'm driving my car, I'm going to Masaka, I'm going to Chenjojo, any part of this country, and I'm stopped by a traffic officer in this festive season, what should I know that this is what they're going to inspect or look for?
You won't know what they're going to look for. You will never know, by the way. But anything.
What should I have to be safe? Or what should my vehicle have to be safe?
Oh, you just have your vehicle in good mechanical condition, have your permit with you, belt up, yeah? Those are basics. Vehicle in good mechanical condition, you belt up, have your permit. You'll be good to go.
Now, also, there's an issue regarding speed. This speed gun, please throw more light. There are times I've been stopped. And I don't understand certain things. They expect me, sir, what speed are you supposed to move? You're 80 kilometers per hour. Like now, you people, me who is driving, to go and pick goats for Christmas. How? Look at the speed, then they show you a signpost. Like now, what measurements do I have between my accelerating? I'm driving an automatic car and the speed. So, but sir, yes, you're right. You've been driving fairly, but look at what the. I don't understand the speed gun issue.
Why?
Also, it keeps on disturbing me. Then one time, like, but I think I wasn't running very fast. Then they show me the readings. I'm like, okay,
Well, the speed gun is actually, the technology now we have on speed guns is superb. We used to have guns that people would contest, that they would say that, no, that wasn't my speed. Maybe you captured the speed of the vehicle that was following behind, and me, I wasn't driving it, you know? And we had problems in telling people that actually this was the speed you were driving at. But the technology we have now captures the vehicle number, it captures the time, the date, the speed at which you were driving, your particular vehicle. There's no way now you can say that, oh, that wasn't me. You get it? There's no way you can do that. But what happens is that the roads have speed limits. So if you are not observant enough to see that the road signages are there to beckon you to drive at a certain speed, and then you don't mind them, so a traffic officer will nab you. He will nab you. And indeed, they will show you where the signpost is. And it is upon you to ensure that you read the road signage and signals. Because that's the language of the road. That's how the road speaks to you. So it is up to you to interpret that language. You know what? It is up to you to interpret that language. So the officers are there, and for them they know that at this road you are supposed to be at 100. You get it? If you drive 110, 120, I will nab you for that. You are overspeeding. You get it? So it is, by the time you get behind the steering wheel, we want to believe that you know how to use the road because you have a permit. There's no way you can get
a permit. Driving school, I have all these.
Absolutely.
Now you are assuming.
So now how can you tell me that, oh, me, I was just driving my vehicle, me, I didn't know this and that? No. It is not right. Yes.
Well, Sedeko there has a number of us. You should read these signposts, but that is one area that keeps on disturbing many people. When they tell you, well, if you're doubting, let's go back to the post. Some traffic officers, I must condemn them. They are very humane, more so when you speak to them with respect and dignity. One time I told them,
many of them, like 90%.
Yeah, let's drive back, sir. And I show you, and when I look, now how do you expect me to calculate really the speed and all that? But he's explained it
But
very
you have
well.
that speedometer on your vehicle.
So as you're driving, make sure you're within the speed range of that particular. Now let's go to drunken driving. Ugandans are happy people, and the bottle is one of the things that they enjoy. Some will even drive while drinking. Others will drink then drive. This time around, are you back to using the breathalyzer? Because during the times of COVID and Ebola, I think this is something you had stopped for a time. Because one thing I've noticed, a drunkard usually survives, but those on the roads that try to save him are the ones that have encountered some accidents, and the drunkard doesn't even know that behind him is left an accident.
Yes. We just lost two of our officers in the recent past on the same day. 2 officers. And although we suspect that this one of Kachiri, the one who died in Kachiri, it could have been a case of a drunken driver. We still don't have the facts yet because he disappeared from the scene, but there were some bottles in the vehicle. So unfortunately, we have not been cleared by the Ministry of Health yet to start operating, because we are waiting for that clearance that we are free of COVID, we are free of Ebola. So because now these gadgets can be transmitters. So unless when we get suspected cases like in an accident or a suspected driver at any one time, that's when we shall subject such a driver to a test so that we get evidence that this driver was under the influence. But where we have mass operations and we need to test each and every driver we stop, it can be a bit tricky because now we have to hold the gadget and then we have to, well, the tubes are new, but because they're already wrapped up, it's actually you, the person we're going to test, who removes that cover from the tube, yourself. And then it is placed on the machine, and then we are made to blow. But you know, if this machine is used by so many people, you never know. So we are waiting for that clearance from the Ministry of Health to tell us that we don't have COVID anymore. We don't have Ebola anymore, and then we shall resume with the operations. For now, they are at a halt.
Okay. Well, viewer, just remind you, please send in your messages, send in your WhatsApp message, or you can use the traditional SMS on the number on your screen, 070960 2592, and I'll be reading them in the next few hours. I want to thank people that are sending in theirs. Now, also, when we talk about operations, let's look at the border industry. Of late, we've seen statistics alarming, where they tell you from October till now you've lost about 1,000 border riders, accidents caused by them, and we are seeing a number of operations happening. I must say, according to police, and I want to emphasize this to our viewer, that the top management of police said this is a safety-aimed operation. But sometimes when you go to some areas where these are happening, it seems they're not doing, and you've been on this set several times and emphasized that you people carrying out these operations, we are strictly, I know our Works and Transport Minister is watching. Thank you so much, Katumba Amara, for being on set. As we emphasize this, he said, we want to look at reflector jackets and helmets. If a rider doesn't have that, the rest, there is work in progress. But when you look around, it seems everything is being captured. What is this operation aimed at? And if, I don't know if this has come to your attention, what is being done?
Thank you for this opportunity to talk about this. And It is unfortunate, but most of our officers don't take commands seriously. On several occasions, I keep on reminding them that we are handling reflector jacket and helmet. Only. Things to do with PSV, third party, will come at the right time. Permits will come at the right time. Right now, there's work in progress. So we are being guided by different entities of government. And for now, it is about safety, because we lose so many people in these accidents. We lose so many riders and their passengers. So right now, the powers that be found it necessary that we start with safety before documentation. You get it? So my orders are very clear. And when I get complainants who say that I've been impounded for not having a permit, for not having a PSV, for not having third party, and I get to know about that case, I actually release them unconditionally. Once I get such complaints on my desk, it's me who writes the release order. And I stamp it, and I tell them to go and get their borders free of charge. They don't even pay for the breakdown services. Because my order was clear, I even told the breakdown guys there at CPS that I don't want borders here over permits, over third party, over PSV, until further notice. For now, if one is impounded over a helmet, not wearing one, over not wearing a reflector jacket, yes, it is okay. So even these operations where civilians are part of them, they are not allowed. The operation is supposed to be carried out by police officers in uniform. If these civilians are involved in the operations, it is wrong. And we also want that information of officers who are working with civilians to impound borders. I've been clear on radio, I've been clear on TV. So whoever is carrying out operations other than those of helmet and reflector is way off the road. We are not on the same mogendo. You get it? They're doing their own stuff. And I want information on all officers in Kempi who are doing this. Yes.
Thank you for clarifying that, and more so when you talked about civilians, because I think this is where corruption starts from.
Absolutely.
Because how do you pay these people?
Yeah. How?
That you employ Mujetu Kwate border. So how are you going to pay them? Because
Absolutely.
we know when these motorcycles are taken to police and these are issued with express penalty, this goes to the consolidated fund.
Yes.
Now how would you tap money for a person who has spent the whole day helping you impound motorcycles?
And if there's no traffic officer on ground, let me also specify this. If there's no traffic officer, a traffic officer puts on like me, a white cape or a beret, cream beret. If there's no traffic officer on the road, there's no other police officer who's supposed to impound borders. Because you have learned that some of us go on the road late in the evening, and then they impound borders. Yes. And yet they're not traffic.
And those motorcycles never even get to the police.
They never get to police.
You find them parked at a side.
So what happens?
Then after they sort
If you get such cases where people operate, police officers operating at night, impounding borders, give us that information.
Well, there are so many messages coming in, and allow me look at the messages. But first, there are so many messages of thank you, thank you, thank you. We wish we could have police officers like you. I'm going to be addressing questions to Mr. Nsereko. Of course, those that are thanking him, thank you for the good work. I've done that in advance. Please let's send messages on issues we've discussed. And let me begin with, and of course, let your name be part of this. Good morning, presenter. Before Afande leaves studios, play Endima by Seki Vio and let them use the song to sensitize our people and pay him for the good message in the song. Well, that one is just a song about road safety. Mr. Officer, every day at Wandegea during evening hours, police officers, not traffic officers, keep harassing road users. Why is it like that? Have the traffic officers lost their powers? That is Richard.
I think I've just talked about that.
We've just talked about it. Then this is a Kisongote Richard from Tororo. Thank you for such a good brief highlights on road safety. Thank you so much for the good work. Now, my vehicle paid penalty in 2016 and in 2018 respectively, but police keeps demanding for that payment always. I lost my receipts. Can I be helped with police technology to establish that, please? Or where can I go for such information?
Can I answer that one right away? Because I'll forget it. If you know that you paid for those tickets, please go to Natete in the EPS tracking office and present your problem. It will be handled and the tickets will be removed from Natete.
Now, still moving on, traffic police is the best among police departments. How can I tip an officer for good work done? You may think it's a bribe.
Well, that happens. People tip us sometimes. But it is, you know, we are not even supposed to be rewarded when the IGP is not in the know. Yes. If you are going to reward me in Sereko, IGP has to know that in Sereko is going to be rewarded, and then he gives the go-ahead. You get it? So
you don't
that's how our police standing orders are. But people appreciate us. Most times they do. But the circumstances matter. You get it? If you tip someone, and it is okay to tip, tipping is okay. But where you want to be let off the hook and then you bribe the officer, that's different. Yeah. So I wouldn't say don't tip our officers, please tip them, but circumstances will matter. Circumstances under which you tip. You get it?
Well, I ever tipped a traffic officer. She surprised me, stopped me, then looked at the car. Can I see your permit? Then said, oh, gentlemen, thank you.
Absolutely.
You can continue. Sorry for any inconvenience caused, but this is our duty. If I drove off, I felt, oh.
I feel good when I hear such comments on our officers.
And very humble, very polite, very honorable. You know, not intimidate-ful or what. You know,
very rude and arrogant.
It was very obvious she's doing her job. And she had nothing that she wanted from
me. And we have many of such characters.
Okay, of late, I must say the traffic department, I'll talk about Kampala, where I'm usually, they have done, but those on highways, Mr. Nsereko, either they have so much power. If one day you're in a civilian and you drive along some highways, I may not mention them here, now they come with their speed guns, they put them there, there's a patrol hiding in a bush around there, there's a way they make it look stopped. It's like, no, they lack that PR, which in Kampala, I'm seeing they have been able to master. They're a bit rude, I must say, those on highways, and I hope this Christmas festive season they may change. Now, a very long message. Please, comrades, let's make these messages very, very short. Goes, good morning, UBC. The main emphasis should be put on speed limit. I have seen more motor vehicle drivers, motorists, drivers, riders at a very high speed, even in jam. When school children are about to cross the road, the use of wrong lane should be discouraged with charges. Congested areas like school junction, market areas, road junctions should have traffic police officers to always note number plates of those cars. Motorcycles whose controllers always mess up in roads. Please use CCTV cameras to track those that abuse traffic laws. For now, let me end this message here.
Yeah, but I can also answer that immediately. And the good thing, you mentioned CCTV camera. And I think you see lists that come out, that NAMPIMA releases most of these in the recent past. Every month, a list is released that captures information on vehicles that offended and they were captured by the CCTV camera. And they're in hundreds. You get it? So that list is usually released every month of vehicles that disregarded traffic laws. So that is being done. And if you want every officer to be everywhere, it just can't happen because we don't have that manpower. we don't have enough manpower to be at every dot of the city. But CCTV camera is doing a good job for us, and we managed to get some of this information of these wrongdoers.
Now we have another one. Good morning. This is Chris from Moyo. I have a car on the road used as a taxi driven by different drivers. The last time I drove it, I was told it has an EPS date. So, so how can I know that it has a date, and what should I do?
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to be a continuous defaulter.
Yeah. You know what happens? I sometimes pity the owners of those taxis, because once their drivers are given tickets, they don't declare to their bosses that the ticket have been issued with a ticket. So you find so many drivers on the same car with different tickets. So the owner won't know that their vehicle accumulated so many tickets. They get to know when we get to impound the vehicles. And then we tell them that, you know what, your car has a ticket of 2 million. Tickets of 2 million, amounting to 2 million. You find cars with 40 tickets. You find cars with 30, 20 tickets. And the owners didn't know. So once they get this information, some of them even opt to sell the vehicles off. Yes. Because now you pay tickets for 4 million, you know, 5 million. What is that?
You rather sell off the
and so that you should, owners of public service vehicles should ensure that they check with police every so often to see the status of their vehicles. Other than that, you'll be surprised.
Now, there's another interesting one. Hello. I want to know, I'm Sulaimani, and from Bale. My question, is it allowed the DPC also to be on the road like a traffic officer? Because in Dokolo district side of Lida, DPC is on the road acting like a traffic officer.
Well, the DPC is the IGP's representative in a district. So he could be very operational, and he needs to be everywhere. You get it. So it depends on his mode of administration, I would say. Maybe he wants to be a field man. Maybe. But is it a one stopping the roads or the cars on the road, like beckoning them to stop when the officers are there? I highly doubt. Maybe he's supervising his men or to ensure that they're doing the right thing in the field. So it depends on what the DPC actually does when he's in the field.
Well, very interesting questions coming in, but I must say time is not so much on our side, and many are thanking him. They are thanking you. So I think we shall just have this last one. Let the officer explain to us why they look money department on the roads. I'm Joel Muhindo, steering live from Kasesa. I think, Joel, your question, my brother, is not clear at all. Then, hello, this is Godfrey from Cheyandongo. Make awareness of such information to all traffic officers on regional basis, because there are gaps on highways. And let me end messages at that. Thank you very much. In the interest of time, let me have your parting shot.
Yeah, our dear Ugandans, we are on the road for you, not against you. Those are two different things. We are for you. We want you alive. So we pray that you find it within yourselves to be more responsible in this festive season, because we don't want to register these crashes. This is the season when we register so many road traffic crashes, and you are moving with family. You can imagine losing your family in an accident. So it is imperative upon you to ensure that we have a very cool and calm festive season free of crashes. I thank you.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time, of course, and explaining some of these things. I love the word, we are on the roads for you, not against you. So let's ensure that we protect ourselves, we respect road signage. Most of the drivers, we do not bother with the road signage or road infrastructure. We just drive. At the end of the day, you land into a traffic offense out of ignorance. But also, let's plan our journeys. Let's have what is required of us. to be on the road. Together, we shall enjoy the festive season. Remember, there are many Christmases ahead.
Yeah.
The world is not coming to an end on the 25th of December, 2023. So let's live knowing that we have many more years. Let's not perish in this excitement on our roads. Have a lovely day. Ruben is ready to take you through sports updates. Good morning.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC